The intention is for the President on Monday to basically read out that action plan. What will be the economic action plan? It will be anchored around 10 10 interventions altogether, but there will be a sequencing on which are the 3 and 5 most important interventions that we'll be focusing on over what time horizon, and how do we measure progress over time, and what do we do about institutional deficiencies in the state from a coordination point of view, and so on. So the work that you've seen being announced around Operation Vulindlela, for instance, in coordinating intervention, the discussion will be whether can we not extend the institutional scope of that work, not so much Operation Vulindlela itself, but that intradepartmental coordination and how the presidency could be optimally utilized to drive impact at that level. So that's the nature of the discussion that we'll be. Our intention is really to move beyond the 0.8% growth platform that we are sitting on. And we know that that will require a combination of improving efficiency on network industries, on where we are, but also on building towards a viable investment compared to the private sector as well, on how we can get new capital deployed into the economy, new venture creation, and improving the performance of the ones that exist, and so on. On the industrial policy scope, of course, it will include what we do on the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, what is the work that we're doing on trying to build South Africa as not just the auto hub of the continent, but also as a leader in new energy vehicles and so on. I think I will stop there for now, Comrade Mahlengi, and then we will take questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair of the ETC, Comrade Zuko. As you can see, a very wide-ranging discussion is going to be taking place. I'd like to invite comments and questions from yourselves, and we will then respond accordingly. ENCA, followed by Newsroom, followed by City Press. I'm not seeing anybody else. Please go ahead, Moloto.
All right, thanks. My name is Moloto from ENCA. Maybe let's start here with the good story coming out of electricity supply having turned the corner. But how sustainable is that trajectory for a company that has just emerged out of the state capture era? Is its sustainability perhaps anchored largely on? And I know you did say, Minister, when I was there, when the results were announced, that no more bailouts. But is its sustainability anchored by perhaps some of the money that it has received so far? Can it sustain that going forward on its own? Second question is about Mr. Godlimbi, when you talk of at least trying to ensure the GDP growth at least goes beyond the 0.8% it's been at for a long time. I'm aware that interventions are being made on the logistics side, we are bringing in the private sector. But in terms of the timeline, how long do you anticipate we are likely to turn the corner? I'm asking this in the context of the interview that I did with one Professor Adrian Seville just on the day, or a day before AGOA expired. And one of the things he said was that AGOA presented enormous opportunity for us to export a lot of outputs into the United States. But even when it was there, we were not taking advantage of just that platform on the basis of the weaknesses within the transport logistics, the freight logistics. When do you see those being attended to, or at least beginning to yield results? I think give you a speech this time.
Definitely. It sounded like questions. Thank you. Just one.
Junior Commander from Newsroom Africa. I think just building on Muluko, you touched a bit on the AGOA trade agreement that expired on Tuesday. I'm sure Mr. Tau would have been best suited to address this, but can you talk about just how far those talks have gone? Are there any talks in place? What is really happening there? I'm sure a lot of businesses in South Africa are really worried about this. Any updates that you can give us at this point?
All right, thank you very much. That will be taken by Comrade Zuko. Thank you very much. City Press.
My name is Norman Masubiri from City Press. My question is on the discussion around growing the economy, looking at what the USA has done vis-a-vis the AGOA issue. What are the long-term and the short-term plan to eradicate the fear that the tariff and the sanction by the US might harm our economy? The NEC, this is not the first time that this issue was discussed. Is there any feedback as to what happened from the past engagement and then the failures and the success of the engagement to say what are the implementation there? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me turn to, let me start with you, Comrade Taspitla.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. I think the question from Moloto in relation to the sustainability of the spectacular performance of Eskom, I want to guarantee you that it's not a fry in the pan, it's not something that happened by accident. So Comrade Zuko makes two important points. So the first one is that when we're in the throes of load shedding, we do two things. So the first one is to ensure that there's a clearly articulated execution plan in the form of the Energy Action Plan that had 5 outcomes. And the second one was leadership, just providing stewardship on the execution of that action plan. And then the three things that are present in this turnaround. So the first one is that we can't deny the fact that the fiscal support has gone a long way in helping us to ensure that we direct that capital to ensure that the fleet of generating units get to a level where they are able to give us the kind of performance that they are giving us today. And as a result of that performance, you see that we are producing more electricity than we are consuming. Just to give you in numbers terms, when we unveiled the Energy Action Plan, we had reached levels of the performance of the fleet at about 48%, what you call the EAF. And now as I speak to you, we are sitting at just above 70%, and we are maintaining that consistently. And as a result of generating more than what we need, it simply meant that we are now in a position to sell more and more electricity. So we are in the business of selling electricity in order to make money. So the more you are able to have products on the shelf, in this instance is electricity, and the customers coming in their numbers to buy off the shelves, it means that you are going to increase your revenue. So that's the second part in relation to, I think, the performance then led us to ensure that we sell more and more electricity. And then the third part is that we're able to bring down the primary cost of generation, or if you like, primary energy. Because we are producing more and more electricity, it means that we don't rely on very expensive energy sources like diesel, and we have seen that we are better off compared to about the past 2 years, about 17 billion rands, and that goes direct to the bottom line. And what the team has also done was to introduce efficiencies across the Eskom, if you like, various areas of Eskom. So all of those things, I mean, if you like, they are structural, and that's why I'm confident that we will be in a position to maintain this path. And maybe just to say the following, in addition to what Comrade Zuko was raising. So what we are beginning to see now is that our neighboring countries also are beginning to experience a surge in demand. And you know that South Africa, electricity demand that is, and you know that South Africa is the anchor of the region. So what that means is that it provides additional scope for Eskom to export this electricity to neighboring countries. Of course, we earn a premium when we export to the various countries. So the point I'm making is that there are areas of constraints in relation to revenue generation, And that has to do with the fact that the municipalities are finding it difficult to keep up to their current accounts. And you can see the money owed to Eskom is about 100 billion rand. So we are opening new avenues for revenue generation. And then the things that are going to be different going forward, first is that we're working with municipalities to ensure that we reduce the debt to Eskom. As you reduce that debt, it's going to go straight to the bottom line. So if we are able to theoretically bring down, if you like, the debt by municipalities to Eskom by 30 billion rand, that goes straight to the bottom line. So that's the point I'm making, is that we are going to see that this picture, in fact, is going to look much, much rosier than what we had seen. I mean, just put it into context. The immediate past financial year, we registered a loss of 55 billion. Current year, a profit after tax of 16 billion. So it's a turnaround of 71 billion. So this can be done. And then the last point I want to make is what is going to come out, and the statement, I'm sure, after the deliberation, will say something along these lines. We are generating more than what we need. And that on its own can be a threat to the grid. Remember when I was briefing the country, if your deficit is huge, so you are going to undermine the frequency of the grid. If you have excess generation, you can undermine the frequency of the grid. So what that means is that we are able to have a better and productive engagement with those sectors of the economy that are the big guzzlers of electricity. So we have something, so that's why we are at an advanced stage with the ferrochrome industry to say we can use this lever to ensure that, one, the smelters don't close, and two, those that have closed must open, because I think if those that are closed can open tomorrow, I think it's upwards of 2,000 megawatts. But what is important is what is going to go to the National Revenue Fund, the taxation that we are going to earn as a result of that beneficiation. Just to give you a chance, a sense, when we export chrome ore in its raw form, it fetches about $150 per ton. If we were to do the value addition, that is smelting, and that, it gives us $1,150 per ton. So it means that the Comrade Enoch is able to collect much greater or much more, and then that money can be reallocated. So we are going to use this additional excess capacity and see how we are able to advance our national interest, how we are able to advance economic growth. And as Comrade Zuko has said, I think there's a template that has been designed on the Eskom side, and I think that template can be exported to other sectors of the economy, not only the network industries, but we have seen that the first people to move along the lines of Eskom is Comrade Barbara, the transport sector. You can see the kind of reforms that are there, and we think that the given time is going to yield almost similar results as we are seeing in Eskom. So once you get the electricity and the logistic going, you have resolved your, if you like, the structural constraint, and then the South African economy will have a greater prospects of growing. We have targeted a growth of about 3% plus. Of course, you can argue it's over-ambitious. That's the nature of this planning. So we know what are the levers to pull for us to get to that stage. And that's what Comrade Zuko, on behalf of the ETC, will present to the NEC. NEC will have a deliberation on that and come with the action plan to be able to get the South African economy going.
Let's start with it's AGOA coming in different forms between Junior and from the ENCA. What the professor was saying to you is true for growth broadly, not just AGOA. Because when we had major weaknesses with our freight logistics system, it meant even the export of coal was not at the level at which it could have been. So all facets of our export earnings were undermined. So that undermined growth significantly. So it's a valid point. It's true not just for AGOA, it's true for the economy as well. The same logic, when there was load shedding, it had the same effect. Output was not at the level at which it should have been, because there was a lot of time wasted with people not working. So when we solve these, it's essentially to build momentum upward of the 0.8%. That's essentially where we are. When you increase the volumes from a tonnage point of view of our exports at the back of efficiency on freight logistics, then what we get is higher. The number of people that we can employ goes up, and as Comrade Sputla was saying, if we can get the smelters that have shut down to reopen, two things happen. They employ people because they will have access to cheaper energy, as the plan that he will unveil in due course. But there will also be export earnings as well, which means at the back of that, the economy will be growing. Junior, you are saying, how far has the AGOA expiry date gone? I know that in South African discourse, the temptation is to frame the expiry of AGOA as a South Africa versus United States problem. It's not. It's the expiry of AGOA as a comprehensive package for the rest of sub-Saharan Africa. It expired on the 30th of September. But there's appetite in Washington to have at least a one-year extension. I think Minister Tau did explain this, I think last week. So that discussion is there. That's a separate track of conversation to the South Africa-US deal that Norman is asking about. Even on that one, Norman, there's significant progress made, and I think Minister Tau did explain this as well. The tricky part on what we can do as an update, which I always try to say to you, Norman, is you don't negotiate at a stadium. You don't, when you are negotiating, you can't hold a loud hailer and say, oh, Norman is asking for 2 rands. I told him I don't have it. That's not negotiation. So there's a limit to what you can reveal without undermining the very substance of the negotiation. The important point to be made is, between May to now, the South African and US negotiating sides are in constant communication. There is a constant exchange of arguments. The side will provide a text that proposes 1, 2, 3, 4. The other side will then have a counter response and so on. That's the nature of trade negotiation, including before Liberation Day, as President Trump calls it. That's how trade deals are generally negotiated. But of course, our strategy, which will be part of the action plan that the President will speak about on Monday, is to try to coordinated stakeholder engagement to allay the fears that you're talking about. We appreciate that, as we can't get into details in public, but there's a level of stakeholder engagement in taking certain sectors of the economy into confidence, including labor, and we've been doing that. We've been using the Network platform, for instance, quite frequently to bring labor and business into confidence about how far we've gone on this negotiation. But if we were to hold a press conference that starts to read in detail every element of what we're negotiating, we could lose even that which we had gained over the negotiation table. That's just the point. A parting shot on the Eskom sustainability. I think Comrade Sputla, because he's a bit modest about the work that they've done on that score. But I think there is no significant risk of backsliding to the period you were talking about. There is no significant. Both from a governance and shareholder department relationship point of view, there's been important work done there. The board has the autonomy to execute the strategy, and they've been doing that diligently under Chairman Mteto Nyati. But they have the consistent support of the shareholder ministry. That is why when they even do the announcement of results, they do it together. And I don't think anyone doubts that if Comrade Sputla were to overstep, the chairman of Eskom would not hesitate to write on Twitter about it or to call a press conference, because he's a very vocal human being, and is very obsessed with preserving the integrity of governance of the work that they are doing. So I don't think if there was any backsliding on that front, you would get a much more confrontational Eskom leadership saying, we think we're being taken there. And Comrade Sputla, even on the financial modeling thing, one of the things that happened, which is a good blueprint, was, people speak about bailouts and so on and say, no, these bailouts don't work, and then what. If you look at the detail of that financial package that was provided to Eskom and move beyond the the backhanded comment about bailouts, you actually see something that was very useful. It was structured with very specific conditionalities on when a drawdown by Treasury will be allowed. It related to specifically detailing which elements of the business must be financed. So you don't give it to an entity and allow them to disperse the money at will. You target specific reform areas and say the drawdown will only be allowed if you are financing maintenance in order to improve the operations of the business so that it could stand on its own. You'll only be allowed a drawdown if a portion of it goes to service your debt to this margin, and so on. And from where we are sitting, Eskom is in good position to assume greater responsibility for the totality of its balance sheet. And as Comrade Sputla was saying, as their performance improves upwardly, so is their capacity to finance their own operations. And that was the business model problem that Eskom had. And our intention is to replicate that across the state sector and get our SOEs to be as efficient as possible so that they don't put pressure both on our sovereign credit rating, because if there are problems at that level, even the sovereign outlook is affected, and that then leads to a spike in the debt service cost that the National Treasury must deal with. So getting these SOEs right is in the interest of overall public finances as a whole. And as we sit here, we are confident that we're doing well. I'm very confident that what the President will be announcing on Monday will be a very concrete and very inspiring outline of what we are committing ourselves to and stuff that we can be held accountable on, because it will have timelines as well attached to it. But the detail of it will come after the deliberations in the National Executive Committee. And as Comrade Sputla was saying, I'll be the first person to set the scene, not doing rhetoric now about what resolution was taken in conference. We have that as a blueprint, but how have we distilled that into an action plan that can be measurable? Thank you very much.
I think Zogo is already giving closing comments, but now somebody is just spoiling the party. I'd like to thank these comrades for just taking you, members of the media, into confidence.
Yeah,
is it pressing? But go ahead.
Yeah, just a clarity. Whether I have things that are proper, that the ambitious target is to grow the economy at least by 3%.
Yes.
But then I'm reminded of the remarks made by Governor of the Reserve Bank, who I think 2 months ago at this National School of Government essentially lamented not only the fact that over the decade we've been growing by 0.8%, but by the fact that despite the fact that we have had peace in our country, but we are doing worse than, in his words, 87% of countries or economies. And countries that we are doing better against will include those that are in a war or in some fiscal or economic crisis like Lebanon, as well as South Sudan. I want to ask, and I know you did mention some 10 priorities, but you didn't want to outline those, but perhaps give us a glimpse to say, was the economic underperformance over the years purely as a result of the electricity uncertainty to the issue of logistics, or there were at least, if you can, give us 2 major impediments that you really believe they were also dragging us back, and this meeting will certainly be attending to those that you believe will at least lift us out of this mess.
Okay, I was going to close, but this is mission critical, that we clarify our position on this. I'll ask what to say.
Very critical. I didn't quite hear what the governor said about the war-torn countries and so on, and that comparison. But we've not been trying to pretend that our economic performance has been anything but what it has been. We've accepted and we've explained on numerous occasions that we've been performing in a very dismal manner economically. That's a fact that we've accepted. We set the 3% growth target because if you don't anchor a growth point, you will not think in a very technical way about how to achieve it. So that 3%, it's ambitious, and we want it to be ambitious, and we will work towards getting it right. It's not that electricity and freight logistics are the sum total of the problems that we've had, But because they are enabler sectors of the economy, they affect a whole range of others. Let me make an example about what the other problem has been. Gross fixed capital formation has been very low, which means both the South African private sector and the public sector have been allocating capital into investment in a suboptimal manner. So one of the weaknesses that we've had, there's been not sufficient levels of investment in the economy. That's the first one. We can argue that it is a function of business confidence, it is a function of this, that, and the other. So part of what the action plan will attend to is, what are we going to do to get that right? What is it that we are going to do to cultivate better business confidence and encourage investment? What has undermined public sector investment mostly has been inefficiencies in the state, which is the other point that I was making, including the state capacity problems on project management and project execution. Make a simple point to illustrate this as well. It is one thing to say we want to build, let's say we want to build a bridge. It is a different thing to be in a position to say we want to build a bridge, we will allocate this amount of money, and we would be done with that bridge in 8 months' time. That's the capability that the state has not had in a long period of time, and it's part of the areas of focus that the NEC meeting is going to deal with. The other point that I can make, for instance, as well, is that credit extension in the South African economy for productive investment has been falling over the years. It's a function of a whole range of factors as well. So SMMEs are not getting as much capital as they would want in order to lead to productivity growth. We will have to address that point, and that's part of what the action plan will do. The cost of capital has been going up over time. We need to think, what is it that has been the underlying driver, and how do we get it right? So if we combine all of those variables, add them to the electricity and the freight logistics, you get the picture of why we've been performing in the manner that you and the governor are explaining as comparable to war-torn countries and so on. I'm not mentioning any country by name, but the picture is accepted. All countries are dealing with macro-social variables that are different, and that translates to growth in different ways. But as I was saying, what the president will be unveiling on Monday, it will answer even those questions as well. We try to be as candid as possible about the weaknesses that we have, and we intend on coming out of this meeting on Monday with a much more measurable sense of how are we going to turn those things around. And as I was mentioning, the 10 focal areas, sure, we will explain what they are, but the detail will be much more expansive as well. But yeah, thanks. I think we are done on that score. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, colleagues. And just a quick reminder that we have that closing address where the president will present the action plan is open to members of the media. Just to alert you in advance, on Monday, time to be confirmed via a media advisory. If there are any other matters that we wish to communicate, we will also communicate. But at this stage, we are done for the day. I'm sure that is pleasing because we always keep you until late. Thank you very much.
The question, I don't know if you can respond to this, the question of the 3% equilibrium on moving away from the target band.
It's good that you don't ask, and I'm not going to answer it. You did very well by not asking that question. I'm not going to answer it. No. You will hear me when I speak about it.
Yeah. Yeah.